Hi everyone, welcome to another ScrawlrBox video, and I really hope that you still enjoy these unboxings. The ScrawlrBox unboxing videos may be my longest running series on this channel. I think 2023 is the 7th year of doing these unboxings, so yeah, ScrawlrBox has been a friend of this channel for a while now. So thank you so much to ScrawlrBox for still sending me these boxes. And if you would like to subscribe to ScrawlrBox, I will have a link in the description box below. I have 3 boxes here that I haven't opened yet. I might use all of them for drawing, or I will only use one. We will see what's inside. Let's start with the first one. We got a little box inside. We got the featured art made by Willy Watt. This is where you can find their art. Really like the pastel colors along with the black lines. We got a marker paper pad, so I assume there will be some markers involved. Let's see what we have here. Toffee candy, one of my favorites, a little sticker. We got a 0.1 fine liner pen from Edding, and we got this set of Faber-Castell Sketch Dual markers. We got 6 of them, and they seem to be alcohol based. Oh, a little swatch card, I think. So there seem to be quite a wide range of different colors, but we got these ones. Got a very muted color scheme here with some beige and a brown, a blue, a green. And these colors are kind of perfect because I was thinking that I would do some winter themed or holiday themed art using the art supplies, and these colors are very much southern Sweden winter themed. These are the exact colors that I'm seeing outside of my window right now. A lot of browns, beige and gray. We got a brush nib at one end, and at the other end we got a fine liner tip. Very nice. Yeah, we got box number 1 or box number 96. All right, let's do a little bit of swatching. Here we have the brush markers. I really like the brush nib. It is flexible, but it isn't too soft and mushy, so I feel like you got a little bit of control when using it. Also really like the finer point tip. Then we have the very fine 0.1 fine liner. So let's see if I can do some sort of gradient, because these are alcohol markers, so they should blend with each other. And I'm just going back and forth between the colors to make sure that they mix with each other. So yeah, that is some sort of gradient. Let's see the next one, which is quite heavy. Ooh, we got a lot of things in here. ScrawlrBox number 97. Ooh, Bristol board. I love it. And compared to the other one, it's very nice and thick. And we got this very pretty art made by Brianna Smith for Chromatic Space Junk. This is where you can find their art. So I'm pretty sure that these will be paint markers. We got my favorite fine liner, the Unipin Fine Line 0.9. So it is very nice and thick. And also a pencil from Derwent, a graphite pencil 2B. So the lead should be a little softer and darker. This is a big set of acrylic markers. We get 12 of them, and the brand is Frisk. Here they are, and it looks like we also got silver and gold. Here we have the nib. It isn't super thick, but it isn't super thin. I would call it a medium-sized nib, and the nib is yellow and dry because I haven't activated it yet. I will have to do that. Alright, so I went ahead and activated all the paint pens, and all you have to do is just to push down the nib and the ink will flow out to the nibs. So the thing with paint markers is that they tend to eat through the paper quite quickly. So one of the secrets is that you should not rub it too much on the same spot on the paper. Then it should be all good. So just like Posca pens, the markers are drying with a matte finish, which I really like. Besides the metallic ones, of course, that are more shimmery. And we have the fine liner, which is very nice and bold. And the graphite pencil. So yeah, there we have those. And then the final box. Ooh, we got a little paint palette. Can't have too many of those. This looks pretty. Box number 98. This is so gorgeous. I've been trying to paint flowers like this, but I never seem to get a hang of it. This is made by Emily Wassel or Wassel. Here's where you can find their art. This is just my color scheme too. We got a whole pad of nice thick watercolor paper. I haven't even seen the supplies, but I'm already loving this box. Ooh, what is this? This seems to be a water spray bottle from Derwent, and also from Derwent we got one of those. Ooh, that is a wide bristle. It is one of those water paint brushes. You will fill this barrel with water, and then you push this little button thingy and the water will flow out to the bristle. How are you supposed to get the bristle back into the cap again? Maybe like so. And then we have these little guys that seem to be watercolors, but it is powder inside of these little bottles. This one says gray violet, but it looks like it is black and yellow. It isn't even powder, it looks like very fine grains of pigments. So we have gray violet, turquoise and midnight violet. So I would assume that you put these little watercolor crystals in the paint palette and then you add some water to activate them. Good thing that the art supplies always comes with instructions, so there seem to be some different ways that you can use these. So yeah, we have the third and final box. Let's try out the art supplies. So these are definitely the supplies I am most curious about. I'm not gonna fill the paintbrush for now. I'm just gonna use it as a regular brush and dip it in the water. I think I'm just gonna try to dump out some of the paint crystals. I think there is some sort of static going on because all the little grains when I get close to the paint palette are going everywhere. Let's see if I can film it. See, they're just jumping out of the bottle by themselves. Ooh. They're going everywhere. That is so much! So apparently there are a few ways that you can use these paint pigments. You can wet the paper and add the pigments, or you can add the pigments first and then spritz on some water. I am just gonna experiment. Let's start by adding some of the pigments to the paper first. There we have the pigments. I have a feeling though, once I spritz the water on there, it might fly in all directions, but we will see. Look at those gorgeous colors. A little messy. I got paint everywhere. I didn't think this through. Alright, what I've learned so far is that you need to tape down the paper. Also put something underneath the paper because these little pigments will be everywhere, and if you get water on them they will be activated, whether they are on the paper or on the desk. So this is quite a messy medium, but look at these pretty colors. I am a little confused about the green and yellow. I mean, you can clearly see that the pigments are yellow, but it says gray violet, so it doesn't look very violet at all. Also, let's spray a little bit of water on the paper first, then add the pigments. You can see the color spreading from the pigments in the water. That is so gorgeous. Alright, so I would say that the first little test is done. Might need to change the setup a bit, but I am so intrigued by these art supplies and I want to experiment a bit more with these. Alright, so I've done a little bit of preparation. I have protected my work desk with this cutting mat. I've also taped down the paper to prevent them from warping. I'm just gonna paint and see what happens, so yeah. So first I'm trying to add the pigments to dry paper and then spritz them with the water bottle. Something that I learned but I still kept doing throughout this whole experiment is that I added way too much of the pigments. A little really goes a long way here. When I had spritzed the pigment with the water, I tried mixing them around with a paintbrush, which resulted in this color explosion. I'm not adding any more of the pigments to the paper, they just seem to activate even more when mixing them around with the water. Next I tried adding the pigments to wet paper, and the effect, to be honest, was a little underwhelming, so I tried spritzing them with some more water to saturate the pigment even more, and I also tried mixing them around with a paintbrush, and yeah, it all turned into such a mess. It isn't very pretty, the paint was running everywhere and I had pigments all over the place and my fingers were all stained by the paint, so that wasn't very pleasant, but to be fair, the process itself, it is quite fun and I do like the outcome once the paint has dried. So there are still some of the pigment crystals stuck to the paper, which will come loose if you poke them around too much, so I tried using some hairspray on them to keep them in place to try to seal them a little. So I'm not gonna do anything more with these pieces, I will just leave them as they are, but it was a fun little test. Next I wanted to try to dissolve the pigments in water before painting with them, to use them sort of like regular watercolors. The yellow, green, purple mixture, it is very interesting, it looks so pretty with all the different colors, and when activating the pigments with a spray bottle, they looks very green and yellow on the paper, but when all the pigments are mixed together in the water, they make this reddish, brown, grayish color. Also, if you don't let all the pigments dissolve completely, they will show up as these little specks of concentrated colors in the paint when painting with them, which can lead to very interesting effects, I think. For this piece, I'm just playing around with the different colors, making these blobs by letting the paint spread in the water on the paper. Now when the paint is wet, it looks almost like soap bubbles. I do really like the different colors together, they mix it very nicely. I thought it could be fun to add something to these bubbles, so I took the paint markers and the thick fine liner from box number 2 and I added some details and patterns. Some of the bubbles almost looks like slices of geodes in an abstract kind of way, and this might actually be my favorite piece of the ones that I created today. I quite enjoyed the process, it was very relaxing. I can really recommend you to try this, making some blobs with patterns if you ever need something easy and mindless to paint. I could paint these abstract geodes all day, but I wanted to make a piece where I could use all art supplies from all 3 boxes in. I started with mixing the paint, and I know it is more interesting using the pigments directly on the paper and create these random abstract patterns, but I feel like it is a little hard to control, and also with all the crystals on top of the paper, it will be difficult using other art supplies on top of that, but I think the paints turned out pretty interesting anyway. If you use the paint before the pigments are fully dissolved, the paint mixture will turn out kind of multicolored. The purple paint has shades of bluer violets in it, but also warmer pinks, which looks very pretty. So I think I mentioned earlier that I want to make something a little winter themed, so here we have this polar bear in a sweater. I just want to make something very simple and cute, and I really like this more cartoony, whimsical style. The background I thought would be this teal color, but it turned out a little too plain in my opinion, so I added some purple around the edges, which I think added a little more depth and dimension. I wanted to add in the alcohol markers somewhere in this piece too, so I used them to color in around the snout and on the belly of the bear. Really like this fine liner because the nib is so thick. It worked especially well to draw with on this textured watercolor paper. It was very nice and smooth, and I wanted to keep the colors flat with no shading, and I do like the contrast between the minimalistic colored bear and the textured watercolor background and sweater. With the paint pens, I added some rosy cheeks and paws, and then, which was actually what inspired this whole painting in the first place, I made this wintry pattern on the sweater, kind of like an ugly Christmas sweater. Paint pens are opaque, so they can paint on top of the watercolors without any trouble. And again, I love the flat look of the paint pens in contrast with the textured watercolors. And I have to say that these pens are really opaque. Some paint pens still turn out a little translucent on top of other mediums, but these actually looks really good. I could have stopped here because it turned out really cute, but also a little boring. I thought this painting was finished, but I felt it would be a shame if I didn't add the pigment texture to this painting, since it is such a unique medium and look. So I taped up the painting again and I added just the tiniest amount of pigments around the edges, but it is really hard to be subtle with this medium, and it was like little color explosions once I added the water. But I do think it makes the art look a little more interesting, to be honest. It added a little more texture. And let me know, did you like the art more before I added the pigments or after? So yeah, here we have them. I hope you enjoyed this video and the art. It is always so much fun trying out new art mediums, and that is why I still love opening these boxes. I had so much fun with the art supplies today. Thanks ScrawlrBox for the boxes, and thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time. Keep drawing, my happy cats. Bye!